Good evening. If you're watching this, it means you are not currently being dragged bloody and screaming off a United flight. United is Denver International Airport's largest carrier, more than 40% of its flights. Now with a new hands-free deplaning surface that United rolled out or dragged out in Chicago last night. We set out to verify how often passengers get forced off these flights and your rights if it ever happens to you. The CEO of United apologized for having to reaccommodate the passenger, which is an interesting word for what's seen on the viral video. It's an extreme example of how a common practice can lead to conflicts. Federal regulators say 1 in 14,000 air passengers is involuntarily bumped from a flight. 8 times as many people agree to give up their seats. If you get bumped against your will, you get paid, depending on how much later you arrive at your destination. For instance, 2 or more hours late on a domestic flight, you get 4 times the cost of your ticket, up to $1,350. So maybe that's why the people on the United flight weren't going to budge for a measly $800. People get bumped because airlines overbook flights. They overbook flights because some people just don't show. It theoretically keeps airfares down by preventing planes from flying with very many empty seats. But as the internet taught us today, if they try to empty your seat and you're in it and you refuse, United may offer you complimentary hands-free deplaning. For all today's talk about United, I feel bad for Frontier. Imagine being ranked lower for customer satisfaction than a competitor who has its customers dragged bloody and screaming from their seats. People prefer that to bag fees. It's just wild. Very few Coloradans ever have a job that they can keep for life if they want it. John Elway, Adele Arakawa, and now Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch. The judge who lives in Boulder and worked in Denver becomes the youngest justice on the Supreme Court by more than a decade. He's 49 years old. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is the oldest justice at 84, and she joined the court following the retirement of the only other Coloradan to ever sit on the Supreme Court. That, of course, was Byron Whizzer White, who was named to the Supreme Court in 1962 after a successful football career at CU and in the NFL. He retired in 1993 and was bestowed with one of the highest honors, certainly, of his extraordinary life, when he was named the 9 News Person of the Week.
He was born in Fort Collins, the only justice from Colorado to have served on the court. He was an All-American on the CU football team and later Rookie of the Year in pro football with the Pittsburgh Pirates. He picked up the nickname Whizzer. He hates it to this day. He was very brief in his letter to President Clinton in March announcing his decision to retire from the court. He said, "It's been an interesting and exciting experience to serve on the court, but after 31 years, someone else should be permitted to have the experience."
Ed Sardello's voice is just butter, isn't it? White occasionally would sit with lower courts following his retirement. He passed away in 2002. The 10th Circuit of Appeals Courthouse in Denver, where Judge Gorsuch worked, is named for Justice White.
I'm Chris Vanderveen. An unsigned letter showed up at 9 News today. All of Colorado's major hospitals apparently put it together. Didn't want to sign it, though. We've posted the whole thing online right now. The letter was an apparent response to our Show Us Your Bills campaign. You might remember last week here on Next, we challenged the hospitals to come to the station today between 2 and 4 to go on the record about the dozens of billing complaints we've received from patients. Well, a mystery woman showed up in our lobby a few hours before with a full-page statement from Centura, Health One, SCL Health, and UC Health. Must have been the hospital's way of telling us they weren't going to be too interested in going on camera, because producer Katie Wilcox and I had a lot of free time on our hands once we opened up our main conference room to the hospitals this afternoon. We even had macaroons. No shows all the way around. We should say we now have a commitment from UC Health to go on camera soon to talk to us about our series. Still no agreements from the other hospitals. We do have this letter, which is way too long for me to read right now, but you can check it out for yourself online. It's online right now. We did get a statement, but again, you can't ask questions of statements. Right?
Yeah. And again, there's a couple different ways to do investigative journalism. There's the chase them across the parking lot with a microphone style, which is not your preferred style. So you've been having a very serious conversation about a serious issue for years, and you just want them to sit down and talk.
Just a little bit of on-camera interview, a little bit of back and forth. That's what we do as reporters, right?
Yeah. Offer still stands.
Still stands.
All right, Chris Vanderveen, thank you. The city of Denver is watching you and me. So quit doing the dirty deeds in city parks, people, where the city has installed cameras for 24/7 surveillance. Parks and Rec says more cameras will save more time and more money. But there's also the whole the city's creeping on you thing. Our Jessica O is watching the watchers.
I try to get here 5 days a week while I'm at work.
Josephine Arwood has a routine when she comes to City Park on her lunch break.
Could I head over here and, you know, say hi to the geese? I do tend to watch people.
But until today, she had no idea surveillance cameras at the park were watching her.
In all honesty, I didn't even notice they were there.
Not many people do, but Denver Parks and Rec says they need this because of something they noticed recently.
250 parks. We have 6,000 acres of park, and we cannot be everywhere.
Rangers are limited, but criminal activity is a growing and serious concern.
When people know that they're being filmed, you won't have a drug dealer standing here selling drugs because there's a camera right behind them.
It's one of the best tools I've ever seen.
For the first time, rangers are patrolling the parks from in here. The advanced camera system can zoom into almost any spot and get a panoramic view. Infrared sensors also help rangers monitor activity anytime, day or night.
And use that film footage to actually help the Denver Police Department apprehend criminals.
Their cameras found us at Commons Park. They even found us doing an interview at City Park later. But what about privacy? The parks are public. Keep in mind anything you do may end up on camera. But for people like Josephine, 24-hour surveillance is worth it.
I think it's a trade-off that we have to have nowadays, you know, because there's so many people that can do so many things.
With more criminal activity reported at City Park lately, she hopes her daily walk will be a bit more safe.
Well, when you put it that way, yes.
For Next, I'm Jessica O.
Yes, but I think it's a trade-off.
Those advanced cameras were installed at Parkfield, Commons, and St. Charles Parks. Lincoln and La Alma Parks are next on the list. And the city also told us it's adding cameras at more than a dozen rec centers. If there truly is no such thing as bad publicity, then the launch of the Kerry Kennedy for Governor campaign is having a great first day. Kennedy announced she's joining the Democratic primary for governor in a live Facebook video while she was driving and reading, presumably her speech notes, which appeared to be stuck to her dashboard. Our politics guy, Brandon Ritteman, counted 14 downward glances in a minute and 40 seconds of driving. April is National Distracted Driving Awareness Month, so we raised some awareness when Kennedy stopped by today. Would you be comfortable with one of your kids driving and reading and making a video at the same time?
So, Kyle, I only drove about half a block. It looks longer than that on the video, but I was going so slowly it was only half a block, just about 300 yards. And we actually had people set up along the route to monitor anybody coming by. So it was safe. We put safety first.
Gotcha. So what the folks were out there, I assume, because you understood that there is an element of danger in driving while reading and making a video at the same time.
Well, I had the script memorized, so I wasn't really reading. I was paying attention to the road.
And with that speed bump behind us, the former state treasurer and I talked policy and her priorities for Colorado. That portion of our discussion is coming up in a moment. Next question comes to us from a viewer named Brianne. Can you see what's up with the Chili's that burned down off C-470 and University? It's still just sitting there. She's talking about the Chili's restaurant that burned in Highlands Ranch in December. This was big news at the time. 40 customers and 15 employees were inside the restaurant when the fire started. No one was hurt. The PR firm that represents Chili's pledged to next, we will rebuild. But they're still in the early planning stages. So it won't be until April of 2018 when we can go back to that location for Chili's, baby back ribs, barbecue sauce. To water your lawn or not to water your lawn yet? That is the question. That's none of your neighbor's dang business, but we'll ask the experts. She calls herself the stoner mom, and she'd like to talk to you about stereotypes.
I'm just working hard to break the stigma.
And the most Colorado thing we saw today. Next. May I make a recommendation that you check out someone else's recommendation on when you should start watering your lawn? After politics and religion, I think that lawn watering might be the touchiest topic in Colorado. I am not one to tell you if you are prematurely sprinkling, but Denver Water says in their view, it's too soon to water now. Denver Water says our grass still has moisture built up from the winter, so it should be okay. And Denver Water is quick to warn we're probably looking at another snowstorm or freeze before the end of spring. Again, this is coming from them, not me. This is America. You can do what you want with your lawn, but there's a link to the article in the next section on 9news.com.
Lots of water way up high in the form of snow, wonderful spring skiing conditions, and good travel weather to get you up there. Here in the city, a little bit of haze today, not as much wind as yesterday, thankfully. Temperatures were warmer, close to 60 in the city. That's the average, and we'll go 10 degrees warmer tomorrow as the winds shift from the southeast from the southwest. And really, it is over the southern plain states where we're seeing our weekend storm create really some big issues tonight in the form of hail, tornadoes, and heavy flooding rainfall. On the backside of that low, as it scoots away, the pressure gradient starting to ease, so less wind, more sunshine, a nice warm up tomorrow. Futurecast shows a few high and mid-level clouds coming into the western half of the state, but nothing falling from those clouds. So beautiful period of weather coming up, a wonderful week with temperatures springing above average tomorrow and staying there through the weekend. Full moon in 32 tonight. High clouds when you wake up, especially west of the Continental Divide, and then the winds will push temperatures into the upper 60s tomorrow. We have 70s midweek and close to 80 degrees on Thursday and Friday. The high and mid-level cloud cover making for a pretty sunrise and sunset shot. If you get one, send that in.
Thank you, Kathy. Recreational marijuana has been legal in Colorado since the end of 2012. There's no way to outlaw a stigma, and it certainly still surrounds many who choose to use cannabis. One woman in Colorado calls herself the stoner mom, and she'd like to have a word with you about stereotypes.
My name is Catherine Van Eaton, and I'm the stoner mom. Oh man, I feel good and stoned. I'm very normal, standard mom, and I'm also a blogger and a vlogger and a user of cannabis. The purpose of the stoner mom is to shed a light on parenthood and adult use of cannabis. I really try to talk about responsible cannabis use as much as I can. I'm just working hard to break the stigma of cannabis users as being lazy, irresponsible, bad parents. So when mommy blogging became big, it was awesome because moms could be like, oh, I'm a mom and I do this, or oh, I'm a mom and I do that, right? There's all these different niches that they could get into in the context of being a mom. I'm a working mom, I'm a stay-at-home mom, I'm a Christian mom, I'm an atheist mom. Now that cannabis can be like introduced and attached to mom, you can do all those same things. I would get high with my girlfriend, you know, on like girls' night in, and we would just talk about how funny it was that we were secretly smoking pot and we were the same moms that you know, were home not getting any sleep, or you know, just that people didn't really know that the mom at the grocery store with the enormous grocery bill is also a pothead. Cannabis use is okay, and you're not the devil if you use it and you're a parent.
If you know someone who is passionate about any topic, not just the ones you can smoke, let us know. We'll share their story with the rest of Colorado. Email next@9news.com or get our attention anytime with the hashtag HeyNext. The only candidate for governor to win a statewide race before is former Treasurer Kerry Kennedy. But her last race was a loss to a Republican who's likely to run for governor as well.
It's a different time and it's a different race.
We'll talk to Kennedy, plus the new frontrunner for the Democratic nomination, Congressman Ed Perlmutter. Then, elk jam. It's a conundrum, not a condiment. Next. Former State Treasurer Kerry Kennedy is the latest Democrat to get into the race for governor. And she says she wants to increase education spending. She says Colorado needs to raise more revenue to do it.
We need to invest more in education. We need to modernize our education system and modernize how we pay for it. We also need to modernize aging infrastructure to make sure we keep Colorado, this place that we love, in the face of growth. So we can look at both. Of course, you always look first to find efficiencies, but I have a track record of coming up with innovative options to address local challenges that doesn't require raising taxes.
A couple of quick questions here. What grade would you give our state for its implementation of legal recreational marijuana?
Oh, I think Colorado's done a very good job. You know, I'd probably give us an A-.
Would you sign off on the execution of Nathan Dunlap?
I personally do not believe in the death penalty. However, if I'm serving as governor, I will uphold the law. The death penalty is the law here in Colorado.
You would not allow your personal opposition to the death penalty to be the reason why you would not carry out that jury verdict?
No, no. As governor, I'm not above the law. I would follow the law, but I would support if the General Assembly passed legislation to outlaw the death penalty in Colorado, I would sign it.
Congressman Ed Perlmutter, also a Democrat, announced his run for governor yesterday. Sat down with politics guy Brandon Ritteman, who asked him how he's going to bridge the divide with Democrats who backed Bernie Sanders last year. Perlmutter was for Hillary Clinton.
I mean, there are a goodly number of those folks who feel like if Bernie had ended up getting it, that the person in the White House might be different.
That's correct.
Do you think so?
I don't know. I was very disappointed in Hillary not winning and that Donald Trump did win. But, you know, that calls for speculation on your part and my part and going back in time.
Perlmutter promises he would act as a check on President Trump, but he said he could probably work with the guy on building transportation projects around Colorado. The most Colorado thing we saw today are the visitors that Julie Skelton had in her yard in Estes Park. Absolutely no manners whatsoever. They don't use the sidewalk. They just traipse right through the front yard. Little rude. Julie said, Elk didn't say anything. Julie said, elk jam in my driveway. Just an average day in Estes Park. The show's going well tonight, I feel. It's a sign, one that you don't want to follow, and another sign that kids these days are up to some real good. It's a sign, and it was placed in a somewhat confusing spot. This is a parking lot in Greenwood Village near Bellevue and I-25. More parking below. Gene Bakay wants you to know, so you just take it straight down the stairs then? Exactly how does that work for you? Probably wouldn't end up very well. It'd have to be one of those tiny little smart cars too as well. Good to know that there's parking on the lower level, just no real idea on how exactly you would get there. The next time you hear somebody talking down kids these days, just refer them to McAuliffe International School in Denver. Was honored to join the kids at McAuliffe, 1,000 or so, to give them a big high five. These are all their student leaders as they headed out on their day of service Friday. Kids took the initiative to identify local nonprofits that they wanted to champion, causes that they wanted to support, and they spread out all over town doing good. Very respectful kids as well. The only time they booed me is when I deserved it. So much feedback tonight about our story on the self-proclaimed stoner mom. Alyssa writes, "Love my kids and my weed." Emily, "Being a good parent and smoking marijuana are not mutually exclusive." Ashley, old friend, new viewer, writes, "It's time to shed the ridiculous notion that mothers who smoke either recreationally or medicinally are less responsible, successful, or a worse parent than someone who does not. Old, untrue adage." And then an unsigned note, "Stoner mom piece was a total waste of time." Why didn't you sign that one? That was a good one. We'll see you next time.